board, in my opinion, is the best writing tool ever. There are so many benefits you get from using the board or a corkboard, as I've talked about in all of these videos. But how do you set one up? Well, you're in luck, because I'm going to go through and show you how I set up my boards. Like that one behind me. What's up? I'm Tim Green, and this is my channel. I post videos on writing. Before we get started, you can download my free Excel word count trackers. Like, subscribe, let's get started. Before we can set up the board, we need to talk about something very specifically about the board. Something I've talked about in every one of my board videos. You need to know what's going to go on the board before you can set it up. This is because the power of the board comes from what you put on it. You can put anything you want on the board, but that can be a waste. This is because whatever is on the board is what's going to be reinforced in your brainosphere here. You will see this every day when you're in the location of the board. So the location should be somewhere where you'll see it every day, but not just every day, multiple times a day. What's on the board is telling your subconscious mind what you're trying to figure out, what questions you're trying to answer, and that's what subconscious will use to figure this out. What's not on the board will not be reinforced. If you have ideas that you really like, but you do not put on the board, there's a 90% or up chance that those ideas will be overwritten by new ideas based on what you've put on the board. So if it's important, it goes on the board. You will want to spend time figuring this out. Once you have figured this out, it's time to set the board up. And how I go about it is I use two tools before I ever do anything. These tools are Adobe Photoshop and Scrivener. You can do what I'm about to do on paper or using any word processor or image editing software. Now that we know that, let's jump into these programs so you can see what I do. I'm basically also deciding what board I'm trying to work on. Either am I working on my series board or my project board. For this video, we're gonna use the project board, which is the one directly behind me you can see. This board contains 4 separate projects, so each project gets a quarter of the board. I start working on this by deciding what project is going on there, obviously, and then posting that project's title at the top of the board. Now, as you can see, this has 4 sections. I find it easier in Photoshop to make sure everything's gonna fit by using a smaller canvas than using the full canvas. It's just easier this way. But for me, we're going to do this. So with the smaller canvas, again, title at the top, and I'll start figuring out what's going to go on it. This is where I'll start using a Scrivener. Photoshop is simply just for visual representation to make sure all note cards will fit. I'll use boxes to represent the note card, but nothing will be on those boxes. Very rarely do I actually have text in Photoshop other than the name and project section titles for each project. If I'm going to have the premise or plot of the series, I'll have that text in Photoshop as well as in Scrivener. Scrivener is where I figure everything out. So what I'll do here is in Scrivener, I'll figure out what my first section of the project is going to be, which is generally questions or ideas for the story. And I'll start listing these out in bullet form, but numbered. It's easy to figure out how many cards I will need for this section based on how many bullets there are. Once I figure this out and I have 15 questions or ideas, that's how many boxes will go under the section. With this section done in Scrivener, I move to Adobe and just start putting boxes to represent each question. And the size of the box will determine on what I'm doing and how many I have of each. When that's finished in Photoshop, I'll move back to Scrivener for my next section. I can have many different sections based on what I'm trying to figure out. My general sections are characters, villains, motivations, goals, all that. Maybe I'll have magic, or things I need to remember about the magic, or questions about the magic. Sometimes I will double up on this, like in the first section where I had questions I may have I might have something in there about the magic, but also then have a separate section later down, lower down about the magic where I'll dive into more details. It really comes down to what I'm looking for or stuff I'm trying to figure out, or things I just need to be reinforced. When I complete each section, I move into Photoshop to make sure the boxes fit. Once the project is full in the smaller canvas, I will then highlight all the boxes and titles there, copy, and then paste them into the larger canvas for it. And then I'll move on to the next project. This could take multiple days to get all the projects done. When it's done, the project board looks like this in Photoshop. This is when I'll move into the next part, which is really just getting the actual index cards and starting to write what's in Photoshop in each section and mapping it out. I'm not going to cover that here because that's just copying from from Scrivener, and we're actually writing it on cards until each project is done and then posting them on the board. I will say this, when you're writing out the index cards, you need to write them small enough to fit on the card so everything will fit in its proper section, but also large enough so you can see it and read it from a few feet away. Where I'm working right now is about 2 feet from this board. It will take time and experimentation for you. Don't feel bad if you have to go through and rewrite those cards a little bit bigger or smaller so everything will fit. I hope this video helped you, especially if you're interested in the board. And if you did enjoy it, why not smash that like button and subscribe? I post videos every week. Don't forget, you can download my free Excel word count trackers. Why is the blank page so scary? Click that video over there to find out why and a simple solution to overcome it. And I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye.